afternoon, Gamecocks. I'm Jack Taylor.
And I'm Matt Bumbaka, and this is Spurs Up.
Our guest this week is Justin King. He's the Associate Athletic Director for Sports Media and normally works with the Gamecock football team, creating the hype videos we all know and love so much. He started off his career after graduating from South Carolina in 2010 with a gig right out of the gate with ESPN as a production assistant. Then he bounced around a couple different places, social media coordinator for SGTV. Then he worked with Rackspace as the marketing director, and then ended up at Alabama Media Group, AL.com, where he, in 2015, I believe, where he worked with the media and is specialized on some sort of recruitment videos, highlight videos, stuff like that. And now he left, and then he left that job, and he is coming up on a year with Gamecock Sports.
Yep, absolutely. First of all, thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for being here.
1 year ago, I actually joined a year ago on the 20th. So actually, I'm not sure when this will air, but it was just a few days ago as of now. So I'm looking at year 2, and that's pretty incredible.
And that's awesome to see. And he's done so much within his year here. And he was even named recently the top 30 under 30 by 247 Sports, which is nice because he's just closing in as his birthday is tomorrow.
I'm still 20 though as of right now. I'm still in my 20s.
It's not 29. It's just 20s. That's what you tell people.
That's what I say to people. Yes.
So we talked about you graduated in 2010 from the University of South Carolina, and now you're coming back. Talk about the impact the school has had on your life.
I mean, this school shaped everything that I do to this day. Even when I wasn't working at South Carolina, I think of my 4 years here, and I think of becoming the person who I am. When I came here versus when I left, I really found who I was as a person. I made friends with people who didn't live in the same town, right? They're from all over the country.
Yeah.
And I met different people who did things in different ways, and I discovered different ways to learn, different ways to just think. And all of that was formed on this campus that we're in the middle of right now. And I owe everything to it. It's a great place. The people here foster incredible just memories, moments, everything you can do. There's not a single bad thing I can ever say about this place.
And you even met your wife here.
I did. I even met my beautiful wife here, and I outkicked my coverage there for sure.
That's awesome.
And she's been super supportive of your career, I assume, as you've been going along.
She's had to be. We've moved a few times here and there. I've had a fair share of jobs. I like to say that this career, this field, is a lifestyle more than it's a job. The hours are never the same. Things change. We work when everybody else plays, if you will. Weekends, holidays, when the big games are. But if you can call it work, if you can call it work.
Yeah. Justin, what got you started into what you're doing now?
So, I always loved South Carolina football. You're a student here, you love South Carolina football. I remember talking about it nonstop. And then after I graduated with a degree in media arts, which is kind of general production. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to go into movie production. Then when I kind of started to get into that, I realized, that's not really the field that you never know really where your next job is. It's not necessarily, I was like, it's obviously all acting, which has its benefits, but it's also, I was kind of like, nothing's real. Yeah, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And then one day I was on the South Carolina message board, just perusing through, looking up the latest news on, I'm not going to say the players' names because I'm going to date myself, and I saw a really, really bad hype video. Like, I don't remember who it was by or anything like that, but it was just, probably just some cut to some, probably Lose Yourself by Eminem, because at the time that was all the rage. But it just wasn't very good, right? It wasn't what it could be, and I thought to myself, I want to try and do this. And I had some experience in editing, and I want to try and take a stab at this. And I had a theory that if I used music that didn't have words in it already, then I could control and I could dictate the story of the video. And so I was like, okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I think I used a song. I hadn't even really delved into the world of trailer music and all that kind of that goes into that. I think I used something like the Last of the Mohicans soundtrack. It was just something I happened to hear. And just for fun. And I made a video to it about the upcoming 2010 season where there was some good hype. We just gotten Lattimore. Alshon had a big year before. We had Steven Garcia returning. There was a lot of hype around that 2010 team, which ended up winning the East. So I made a video for that, and it was very well received. Put it out there. I remember putting it out on YouTube, and when I saw 500 views, I said, "Oh my goodness, this is not all my mom hitting refresh. There's no way my mom hit refresh 500 times on this video." And I was just amazed, and there was a lot of positive feedback, which of course reinforced that, that's really cool, this is what I can do. And then one day, one of my friends said, "Hey, you should send it to ESPN." And I said, "Yeah, right. I don't even know. That's not going to happen." And he's like, "No, here." And he did the research for me and found the recruiter's email address and said, "You should send it to her."
Wow.
Her name was Stacy Williamson, and I'll be forever grateful to Stacy.
That's a great friend.
He was a great friend. And so, Kevin, thank you. And so I sent out the email, didn't expect to hear back, and then I did hear back saying, "Hey, that was interesting. You want to talk a little bit more?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I set up, had an interview, got a job at ESPN, and that's a really short way to tell that story.
Wow. So you would say that video pretty much jump-started your career?
Absolutely, it did. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't even really know I wanted to work in sports. Yeah. But it kind of ended up working to that for me.
So you spent time with ESPN as production assistant, and then you spent time with GETV as director of social media, and then you spent time as a marketing director, I believe is what the second job was, and then ended up at AL. So throughout these jobs, how important was, or how often did you stick to your craft, or keep trying to improve your craft of these videos and of this content that you were making?
I was always kind of making stuff. I remember I'd go home from ESPN and make hype videos. On my own, just because I enjoyed doing it. It was fun at the time. I didn't get as technically advanced then as I do now, so things were able to be made a little bit faster. And of course, it helps that a lot of right place, right time. The Gamecocks were also doing really, really well, and so of course that did nothing but help what I was kind of trying to do. And I wasn't setting out to try and make money from it. It was literally just fun to make it, and I enjoyed watching them. Like I just set out to make the videos that I would want to watch, and I'm just fortunate that other people seem to like them as well. And so I kept kind of honing and developing this craft as best I could while also working the job. Was at ESPN for about a year, and that was a tough job. I mean, first of all, you grew up in South Carolina and you moved to Bristol, Connecticut. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Bristol, Connecticut, but there's not very much in Bristol, Connecticut. Very cold, the winter. I was either working, you'd go in at 4 p.m. and get off at about 2 a.m. because you were cutting a highlight for Sports Center with an assigned game, or eventually, after I did that for a while, I moved to Mike and Mike. You can almost call it a different job. I worked on the Mike and Mike in the Morning show at the time. That show just actually ended its run, and would go in, and I'd have to wake up at 3 in the morning to be there by 4. Because you have to start and you have to cut a bunch of videos, so when they're talking on the TV show and they show B-roll over them talking of whatever topics, I would cut that video together, which was, honestly, it was very simple. It was not a very challenging job, and I think that's what ended up getting me out of ESPN. I kind of just was like, I don't know, a day in, day out, you kind of do the same thing over and over again, which is a large, massive company, they have to do it that way. It's the only way that really makes sense for them. They can't, there's some higher ups who have more creativity with their features, but of course, there's work to kind of get to that point. And I was like, I don't know if this is necessarily for me, but I knew I loved social media because that's what I was doing on the side. I'd put things out on YouTube at the time. Then it was like, okay, Twitter, Facebook, mostly between those three. And I was like, oh, okay. I kind of see how you can use these social networks. I kind of see how you can frame things, how you can show things, how you can kind of put things out there that it kind of gets spread among people, and started to really get into that, and then dove into that. And that's how I ended up at the next job, which is as a director of social media, and really began, and then I dove headfirst into that. It's been an interesting transition because every single stop I've had has led me to develop further a skill that I now use every single day in this job, which is why when I look back and I just thank God for every opportunity that I've been given, because it's because of that I am where I am now and that I'm able to do the job that I'm able to do. Of course, got to have a good team around you too, which I do now.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite aspect of the job that you do now?
Oh my goodness. Getting to make an impact on a place I love.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Gamecock fan. I always have been. I remember being when I was covering Alabama and Auburn, I was at the Iron Bowl and checking the South Carolina Clemson, I'm looking at my phone, checking the South Carolina Clemson score. Just a massive Gamecock fan, and so now the fact that I can actually have an impact in some way, shape, or form and work on a daily basis and think, oh, okay, what can I do to make an extra impact and help land another recruit? And it actually makes like a real difference.
Yeah.
Things that when I was a sophomore and junior in college, I used to be like, oh, I wish they could play this song in the stadium. Things like that. I wish the video that they played in the video board, which is like a postage stamp back then, was like this. And now I'm fortunate to be able to actually have an impact on that. And it's a tremendous opportunity that I am so thankful for.
Well, Justin, unfortunately, we're running out of time. But again, thank you so much for coming on the show this week.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure having you and getting to talk to you about your career. And I wish we could ask you more questions, and we might even throw in another segment, wink, wink. But again, thank you so much for coming on.
It was great. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And until next time, South Carolina,
Spurs up.